All right, welcome back to the LeaderLink podcast. This is your host, Charles Heasley, and today I'm going to talk about a topic that some leaders might be surprised about, and that is to stop solving all the problems. Yeah, so as a leader, obviously, you're going to have the ultimate responsibility for some problems, but keep in mind that one of your jobs as a leader is to help people develop and grow and learn how to solve their own problems, because we're not just hiring people to do tasks. We're in most organizations, we're hiring people because we want to capitalize on their skills, their brain power, their ability to make decisions and contribute meaningfully to the organization. And when we own all of the problems and all of the solutions, we're robbing them of the opportunity to meaningfully contribute to the daily work and possibly even improving things. So here's a lesson that I learned early on in my law enforcement career, and it was that when I would call my sergeant, this is when I was still a police officer. When I would call my sergeant, I already kind of knew the answer. I knew what I wanted to do, but I was, maybe a little unsure of myself, and so I was looking for confirmation. And I remember I had a sergeant who did me such a huge favor, because when I would call with a situation, whether that was, whether we make an arrest or whether we get another agency involved or whatever the situation was, he would put it back on me, and he would ask me, what is it that you think we should do? Well, I would explain, I've thought it out. I think we should do this and this and this. And he said, I agree. and it was a valuable lesson, because it taught me that sometimes when people are communicating with their leaders and coming with problems, challenges, and decision, a lot of times they already know the answer, or they already know what direction they should be going, and they're just looking for that confirmation. But solving people's problems can go beyond that, because one of the biggest problems in any organization is people problems. And drama is just one of those things that if you have an organization that is bigger than 2 or 3 people, maybe even in organizations with 2 or 3 people, there's going to be people problems, drama issues, because we have different personalities, because we may feel threatened by other people, whatever the reason might be. Some work harder than others, or at least that's the perception. And so drama is a big problem in the workplace. So somebody in this organization was telling me that their direct report, who also supervises other leaders, was spending a lot of time in their office complaining about drama with some of the other leaders that they're supposed to supervise. And so, just as a thought experiment, we actually wrote it down on paper. I said, okay, let's figure out, how much do you make an hour? How much does this person make an hour? They're pretty high up in the company, so these are fairly high dollar amounts. And let's conservatively ballpark what the amount of time they spend in your office every week. Well, I don't know if this was overinflated, but the estimate we came up with was about $150,000 a year, which is crazy. So this leader of other leaders was spending time in their boss's office complaining about drama with the people they supervise, and it was costing the company a significant amount of money. Stop solving everyone's problems. As a leader, one of your jobs, again, is to help people enhance their judgment, their decision-making, their problem-solving skills. And since a lot of the problems in organizations are people problems, one of the ways you can best help your organization as a leader is by helping people come up with their own answers. So, are we going to erase that $150,000 overnight? No, it's going to be a process. They're going to have to develop coaching skills and delegation skills. But here's the thing. If you as a leader are so busy solving other people's problems, that means your time is being taken away from the activities that drive the organization in the right direction from your seat. What are the things that you can do that will help the organization the best? It is probably not dealing with other people's problems. So we have to help them learn how to solve their own problems. And this is where every leader, in my opinion, should view themselves as a coach. Your job, in my opinion, is to coach that person, that leader, especially if they're a leader of other leaders. Coach that person to help them walk through the issue that they're dealing with, and this is really going to be about questions. Instead of this is the key, the answer in this podcast is stop solving and start asking. Ask the questions to help them come to the solution. One of my favorite questions that I would ask, and I know that it drives some people nuts, but one of my favorite questions to ask would be, if you knew the right answer, what would that be? Because again, most people, when they come to their boss with a problem, is because they already know inherently what they want to do, and they're looking for validation that it is the right course of action. So that question is one of my favorites. If you knew the right answer, what would it be? If that doesn't work, which, it's not always going to work, then I would walk through the thought process with them. Okay, lay out the facts for me. Lay out what we know. Lay out what we don't know. Okay, based on all of this information, what are you thinking we should do next? And it's putting it back on them, challenging them to process it, to think of the solution. You can be there to support them and coach them and guide them throughout that, and you're providing a safety net, but at the same time you're also giving them your backing, your support, letting them know, I believe in you. I believe that you have the ability to work through this. Because here's the thing, someday they may move up in the organization. They may be the leader, and who are they going to go to if they have a problem? Yeah, sure. There's always somebody that we're reporting to. But at some point, if we're making people dependent on coming to us with their problems so that we can solve them for them, we're ultimately becoming the bottleneck in the organization. And one of the things that people complain about most in surveys and in discussions that I have is that their leader becomes the bottleneck. All right, so instead of becoming the bottleneck, become the coach. And the best way to do that is to start by asking good questions. If you knew the right answer, what would it be? Based on everything we know, what should we be looking at next? What information might be missing? What is it that may not be obvious that we're not discussing? What do you recommend? What do you think? Again, we're putting it back on that person. And another great one, this kind of like along the lines of, if you knew the right answer, what would it be? What would you do if I wasn't here? If you didn't have the ability to come to me, what would be your next course of action? And here's the thing, the answer may not be the right answer. Oftentimes you'll be surprised. It probably will be, or it'll be pretty close to what the right answer should be. But this is an opportunity for you to coach them, because you're always trying to help them enhance their judgment, decision-making, and problem-solving skills. Not doing that is actually failing them as a leader. All right, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the LeaderLink podcast, and we'll see you next week.